Hello and welcome everyone to the battle of the top four here in the LEC 2023 Spring Split. Before we kick off the finals weekend, I have a question for you and everybody here in the studio. How many teams do you think have made top four all time in European history? Well, the answer is 18 teams have ever made top four in EMEA. But I do think context here is important. I want to take a look at how many splits each of these teams has competed in Europe. And then I want to take a look at how many times each of these teams has made it to the top four. As you can see, we have an incredibly bottom-heavy league. Very few teams have been able to reach the high highs that Fnatic and G2 have been able to accomplish. And this weekend, things are a little different. While we have some old and recognizable faces of G2 and Mad, we have newcomers to the top four again in Team Vitality and specifically Team BDS. 4 total splits, first time top four, first time finals. Here, these mix of faces in the spring split are looking to make history. And of course, for teams like G2 and Mad Lions, you've seen these teams before. They've made top four. Hell, they've won on this very stage in winter. They've got multiple titles between them, and just 2 months ago, G2 and Mad was the finals. This time, however, the teams are simply not good enough. Their opponents this weekend have been better. For example, Team Vitality, despite competing in Europe for 16 splits, they have only made top four 3 times. And it wasn't any of the recently assembled super teams with names like Alfari, Selfmade, and Kazi. We have to go all the way back to summer 2018, where familiar names like Jazuke and Kabashar and Attila reached 3rd place in the Palacio Vista Alegre in Madrid. That was nearly 5 years ago. Since then, Vitality has been chasing their former glory, and now is the time for them to change their legacy. They are led by the 8-time LEC champion Perks, flanked by superstar bot laner Upset and the mechanical monsters of Bo and Photon. But I have a question. Can they overcome the hurdle? Will they falter once more to the new up-and-coming superstars? On Sunday, the one surprising team that has defied expectations over and over is waiting as the final boss of the spring split. Team BDS's debut year in the LEC in 2022 was rough. They placed 9th and 10th. They had a record of 7 and 29. Frankly, they sucked. Fans and myself began to question the ambitions of the organization. And I was about to write off BDS for the foreseeable future, but oh boy, did Team BDS step up. They have not dropped a single game in the Brack stage. They are on a 10-game winning streak. They have a combined record of 14-2, and Team BDS, put simply, is dominating the competition. They do not want to stop here. They have their eyes set on the title, on the championship, on lifting the Swing Split Shield and representing EMEA at MSI in London. So ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else, the LEC Finals weekend starts right now.
Ireland, Germany. We're down to 4 teams remaining in the competition, and each day we will eliminate one more until we get to our split final on Sunday with a spot at MSI on the line where BDS is waiting. Not at MSI on Sunday, but if they win, they would go to MSI. I'm Shox, and I'm joined by Reckless and Yamato. What a treat!
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yay!
It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Martin, that you want to join us for today, and Yamato, who will be joining us the whole weekend. So let's pull up the bracket and see what we're going to be talking about today and over this weekend. Martin, what's your first reaction when you saw this playoff bracket come out?
BDS in finals.
Yeah.
I think that is the biggest surprise to all of us. But honestly, looking at their games and how solid they have been throughout pretty much the entirety of the season, it shouldn't really be a surprise. They seem to have figured out exactly what they need to do as a team, and they're doing it back-to-back against anyone they play.
I think also with how the format kind of plays out, with the fact that the teams have to figure out one patch, I feel like BDS are definitely the masters of this patch, and they found a level of consistency that kind of resembles good League of Legends right now.
Something you said in rehearsal that I'd like to repeat for us to follow is they're waiting in the final, but that will be the first best of 5 they play together.
Yeah, that's actually also so crazy to think about, that BDS, you know, this team playing that only best of 5, and that is going to be the final, and no lower bracket for them. Either they're going to be waiting and, you know, they can study their opponents, or they're in for a shock of cold water when you finally get to play those best of 5s. But luckily, best of 3s might have prepared them just enough.
Yeah, at least they played a couple of best of 3s already. And for everyone still confused about who we're sending to MSI, it's quite simple. The winner of the split will qualify next to G2. If G2 wins, MAD will join them due to championship points. So it's pretty straightforward, and I know everybody wants to know. Let's pull up the bracket again, because as we get into this weekend, I just wanted to call out a couple of player stories that we'll be following throughout this weekend. And because our esport has aged, you know, and there's a lot of connections between a lot of these players, it's quite interesting that they might be playing their ex-teams. I want to start with Crowny and Labrov. Of course, Yamato in Vitality had a big task ahead of them, and now they find their way to the final.
Yeah, I remember when they were playing in Vitality back in the days, you know, they were kind of just sidekicks in this self-made leader story, because they were playing the Yasuos and the Dianas and Crowny and Labrov. You know, Labrov was always a player that was always high ranked in solo queue, and people thought, oh, this is a player that has a lot of potential, but didn't necessarily show what he could be capable of on stage. Crowny as well, you know, some of the community members always spoke highly of Crowny, but he was always put into these kind of weird situations team-wise where he couldn't really flourish. And now the story for the both of them, I mentioned that they were the side characters in the past, but now they are the main characters of their team, and they are really, really popping off in the current meta.
Yeah, Martin, we saw Crowny's interview last week as well.
What an interview.
Yeah, you saw how much it meant to him. And it's true what Yamato says. Sometimes you just get into situations that aren't ideal, but you have to make the best of it as a player.
Yeah, and I think especially for Crowny and I guess Adam in some way, playing the LFL last year, going all the way from the RLs now back into the LEC, proving everyone that they have what it takes, and playing a finals on Sunday, that just seems to be sort of a Cinderella story. So I think that interview Crowny did last weekend really was the icing on the cake for me.
It was. Hopefully they'll have more icing if they are able to perform in the final. Let's talk about Carzzy as well. Of course, his return to the Mad Lions. This was the organization with which he lifted those trophies. How do you think he arrives here in this finals playoffs weekend, Martin?
I think he actually arrives with pretty good games in his back. I mean, he had a rough, like the entirety of MAD had a rough regular season, but honestly in the playoffs so far they've looked pretty good, and they seem to more and more kind of just accept that they are this team that fight everything and rely so much on that. And I feel like Carzzy is actually pretty good in that setting. He's someone that actually pops off a lot of games that they play.
I feel like Carzzy is such an enigma, because all of the good also comes with plenty of craziness and plenty of bads. You know, he's kind of this wild card that I think a team can kind of rely on as you go deeper into the games. I'm kind of curious how it will develop for him now, as everyone has noticed that his Jinx is a champion that should be targeted, and I'm curious if Carzzy can bring some of that playoff magic from 2021 MAD into the best of 5 series.
There was
this
a lot
weekend.
of clutching going on back then for Mad Lions, and Kaiser was a big part of that. Of course, Carzzy's partner in crime from back then is now on Vitality. And how do you think he's been doing with Upset overall, Martin?
I think they've been doing okay, maybe a little bit worse than people expected, but I also think people's expectations were that they were just gonna smash everyone from the get-go. The one thing I would say is I feel like they're misusing Kaiser so far, because to me Kaiser is a roaming support, someone that doesn't necessarily have his strengths in the bot lane, and they are playing more range supports and using him more for the bot lane. I think that is not the way I would play him in my team.
I think also when I think back of the Kaiser that was the most successful, it was especially that player that was, when he was in Fog of War, he could be anywhere. They were diving top against us in that finals in 2021. They were roaming into mid. He was always connecting with Elioya, and I feel like this is the most dangerous version of Kaiser, but this is also where Vitality struggle as a team, where they are playing more connective. They are more this type of team that needs to get lane leads and then dominate through the sheer force of mechanical play, but that can only get you so far.
True. We'll see if they've workshopped that coming into this final week. Finally, I want to mention Perks. He might be up against G2. In fact, he might have to beat them if he wants to make it to MSI at all. And oh, it's so looming, right? With this Vitality Perks, which has always been a super team or a team with such sky-high expectations, Yamato, but they've fallen short time and time again.
No, I just remember, you know, Perks against Caps, that finals when Caps was solo killing. When you were playing Reckless, you were playing the Tristana and I believe Sivir and the Jinx, that series. I remember that series, like it just sparked this kind of rivalry that we kind of got robbed of because they happened to be on the same team afterwards. And now Perks has now been fighting his way back in to the top 4 through these super teams here on Vitality after a stint in C9. I can imagine that in Perks' mind, it must anger him that we see as Caps as the GOAT of Europe. And Perks was always in that conversation. And I believe today, like if they manage to face off against each other, you just know it's going to be fireworks because you have these two players with so much pedigree and history behind them.
He's definitely still in the conversation.
For sure.
Yeah. So we're clear. But this weekend, not only a spot at MSI is on the line, but the Spring Champion will also secure their spot at the season finals after summer. We're excited to share a few special announcements regarding our roadshow in Montpellier-L'Occitanie.
The competition within the LEC is getting more and more fierce. And now we're bringing the first ever LEC season finals to Montpellier-Occitanie. We couldn't be more excited to return to France, where our fans can catch the best teams of the year compete. But only one team can climb up to the top and write their names down in history. For those who are able to claim it, glory awaits.
G2 are inevitable. G2 are inescapable.
Fnatic rule Europe.
Season finals weekend is September 8th through 10th, and we want you there with us. Tickets go on sale on June 19th, so mark your calendar. And yes, we will be in Montpellier for 3 days. You want to know why? For the first time, the EMEA Masters Summer Finals is joining the LEC on the road. Watch the two teams from our regional leagues battle on the big stage as we kick off a weekend packed with some incredible League of Legends.
It's a pentakill!
And it will all happen in Montpellier-Occitanie. Don't miss it.
Oh, we won't miss it. We're going to be there, and I hope you all will also be there. And how cool. I always mess it up. EMEA Masters Finals, EU Masters Finals rather, will also be there. Reckless, that's just such a gift to the players.
Very much, yeah. I played it last year,
Yeah.
so I know how important that tournament feels, and I'm also watching the one that is ongoing right now. And I can imagine for these teams having this opportunity in summer must feel like a goal of a lifetime in your career to be able to play in front of a crowd and get that opportunity that only really the best players otherwise get.
I think if it isn't, it definitely should be. I think for every player, like I played my first LCS match on the big venue in Lille. It was the big Zenith, like everything was vibrating. It's just a completely different experience to play in front of a crowd because that really awakens something in you. You never want to miss the opportunities to ever do it again if it is in front of you.
Absolutely, and in France, it's going to be insane. And if you haven't been following our ERLs, you're bad. But you can check out map.lolemia.com to navigate all of our regional leagues on an interactive map. And as Laura said already, our tickets will be available soon for our roadshow in Montpellier-L'Occitanie, on sale on June 19th. You can stay tuned for more information on ticket prices and where to buy them, as everything is always on lolesports.com, but you'll see it on your other channels as well. Now, while the EMEA Masters teams will be running it to Montpellier in summer, here in the LEC, we've also seen some interesting plays last weekend. So to fully align the broadcast with our players' gameplay, we've decided to also run it down. And you'll be like, shocked, don't we always run it down? Yeah, but now for real. What's going to happen here is that Goldborg will be running it for us tonight, and you at home can decide based on the clips that we're seeing at which speed the treadmill will run. You can spam staying cool or running it in the chat as we go through the clips. Now, I'm going to start you off on a walk, I think.
Well, let's see. I think you have to press the...
I did.
No, not the middle one, the
I
bottom
did.
one.
You're all in my ear saying, but I've pressed it a couple of times. Oh,
Well,
no.
we can pretend like I'm running.
Turn it on using the bottom button.
Oh, there we have. There's something. You did it. We're going.
You gaslit me. Okay, here we go. It wasn't the middle button.
No, that's at the bottom one.
Okay, you did actually. That's
Yeah,
true. All right,
see,
I'm going to start you off at a walk to get you into the mood. And I do hope that the people at home are careful with you. Let's go
Yeah,
to
remember
clip one and
Twitch
see what
chat? I
happens.
really love you guys. I've always loved you guys. You are my favorite people. Yes, you're my favorite.
All right, clip one. Here we go.
Okay, so we have this unfortunate play from Fnatic trying to go for the back door. Not really the back door, the base rates. Already quite unfortunate is the fact that the TP has come through from the
Gonna
Jags.
cast it
No
too?
item was back either bought afterwards that would actually facilitate
Okay,
it.
it's going up.
Counter-Strike is a bit unlucky because it's procced early and Reckless on the Sivir as well. You know, that's just not a good situation. You could definitely have gone for the end there had there not been some mishaps in that play. I'm just actually going to let go here. So, okay, slight jog now.
Okay,
Yeah,
are you
getting
sure
the
you want to
flow going.
shout every play as we go?
Listen, I'm running. I'm not doing this on
Okay,
purpose.
play
It's just
two,
happening.
please. Play two, please.
It's still walking pace. I feel this.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so you've just seen the Maokai on Vision. Everyone, we've seen him on Vision. He's now clearing the ward. I know you want to go for the play here. I know you want to crash it. But why are you still sticking around? Because there's a Maokai you've already seen him. I just feel like it's illegal to die here just because you've already seen the Maokai. You know he's coming down there, and you just need to respect it. You would get so much on the other side of the map because you know where the enemy jungler is. And I'm
they've
really
got you
feeling the jug
running.
now.
They've got you running. I mean, there's two more, so
Yeah, let's go for
see.
it.
Maybe it's a play that allows you to be a bit slower. Let's see.
We'll
Play
see.
number 3.
Oh, this
yeah.
is a beautiful play. First off, the gobble off from Labrov. Absolutely magnificent. Then the CC chain. And let's mention this, the miasma from Mewtwo into the knockup combo. The only thing that's running it in that play is the fact that Adam ulted into the wall instead of flash ulting. Oh, God damn it, I'm so out of shape. I love this.
Goldborg, I know you said that they should be nice with you, but this was clearly...
Why is it at the top?
Yeah, it's because they're still spamming running it instead of staying...
But that was a good play.
I know. Let's take a look at the last clip. I'm sorry, I can't help
you know
it.
how
I listen to
love
Twitch
them?
chat.
I absolutely hate them. Now, unfortunate position from Capsian. It really comes down to the hesitation. The fact he doesn't go for it immediately allows the turret to hit the cannon minion for the level up, and it looks like a complete in for Caps. Unfortunately for him, not the only in he was going to have. Is it,
Okay, you can
is it stopping now?
slowly cool down. Thank you so much, Twitch chat, for that. And thank you, GB. Truly an excellent performance.
Yeah, great pitch
I gotta
shots.
say, good stuff. Now, Mad Lions is up on the docket, and Chasey and Eloya have also been excellent last week. So they're now standing by with Laura for an interview.
I hate you.
Thank you, Shock, standing here with the Mad Lions ahead of their games today. Chasey, Yoya, thank you so much for joining me. Yoya, I read an interview from you earlier this week about MSI and the audience perception of you guys making it to MSI. Can you tell me how much is fueling you, the fact that people don't want you to make it there because you may not win any series?
Yeah, it's a lot of... I actually have a lot of motivation to win this series and qualify to MSI myself. I think that'll be a really good moment, so people can stop hating, because even if we make it, like we were second last split, we are in the top 4 at least this split, we are playing G2, which is for sure a strong contender. Like, yeah, you have to understand.
Yeah.
We are a good team. We are gonna make it work in MSI. We forget about what happened in Worlds, in previous Worlds. That happened already. It's a new Mad Lions. So also, I don't want the people in these Mad Lions to take the blame for what we previously did. I previously did. So I think it's not fair. So yeah.
I think it's a nice thing to address, and shutting down the haters is always an extra boost and motivation. Chasey, back to you now, facing Broken Blade today. What do you think about the top lane matchup, and why are you a better top laner than BB?
I think I'm younger than BB, so I think I better hand, better mechanic, so I can win. And if top carry matchup, I will win. For sure.
Gotta love the bit of a flame here. Yeah, anything you want to answer to your top laner about what he said? And because we know that when top lane works for you guys, this is usually a good strategy to abort here. So any take on the top lane matchup against BB and what Chasey just told us here?
I agree. I think he has better hands. He's gonna win today, and even more if we pick rat champions. If we have Kennen and R, these kind of champions that are little rats, Chasey really benefits from it because he's also a little rat, so he will for sure win them.
Rata champions. We've noticed that with the games that you played recently, you play easier composition to execute, I feel, which suits your playstyle a bit more. Can you tell me about this shift and adaptations to find yourself in the team again?
Yeah, I think we were making our lives really hard with some drafts, and we just realized that if we start drafting compositions that make more sense into enemy champs and we go back to team fighting, which is one of our strengths right now, we will be a really good team and we will fix some of the mistakes that we were having. And I think this made a huge impact for sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing that on the Rift, of course, today. Last question for you, Chasey. Last time you did an interview on stage, you asked Yoya to gank top a bit more. Is there anything you want to ask your jungler today ahead of today's series?
Please, tank champion for me.
For you?
Yeah, for us.
For us.
For us.
For the team.
Yeah.
Chasey, thank you so much for the interview. Yoya, thank you. Best of luck today against G2 and Shox. Back to you.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun. A rat, eh? Okay. Sure. Interesting. Tank champions, he said. That's interesting because I feel like Chasey has had some standout performances, not just on tank champions. And when we look at Chasey's performance overall, I feel like he was such a big contributor to the fact that Mad Lions made that run all the way to the final back in winter when not a lot of people expected it.
I feel like Chasey is very good mechanically. I think when it comes to like the lane phase and how he fights, I think he does it very well. But I feel like he only has one gear, and that is to go forward, forward, forward. He does that in lane phase. He does that in fights. Whenever something different is required of him, this is where Mad Lions look a bit off. And I hope that they facilitate that strength and they draft it in a way that makes that into a strength and not a weakness.
Mm-hmm. When we look at Mad Lions, I feel like that's all they do. They just go forward. Sometimes they take suboptimal fights where you're wondering, all right, what's going to happen here? And it doesn't work out for the best for them.
Not always, but it seems like towards the end, at least, they've realized that this is how they play the game the best way. So if you look at their picks from Hylissang, if you look at their picks from Chasey as well, it seems like they have just kind of realized that this is how they can play, or maybe this is the only way they can play, but at least they are aware and they've kind of brought this into the playoffs now, and that's, I think, what got them the two wins that they needed.
Yeah, their proactivity can be a boon for sure, but I guess here we see some examples, Reckless, of when it doesn't work out.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a bit too much, but I would like to mention here that they are still kind of stuck in this, we're not really sure what to play. Like that clip, they were playing Lucian Nami, and I think as of late, you have just seen them completely transition to what he's really actually good at. Okay, he's a great Rel player, he's great Pyke, Rakan, Braum, so they're just putting him on those champs now, and I feel like that just does so much for that team that is continuously wanting to fight everything that moves.
I think that's so true. Even in this clip, we have Hilly on Soraka. That's not something that brings back good memories for me personally. I think Hilly, whenever he can be a facilitator, and I think if Mad Lions, their biggest difficulty is always making sure that they're on the same screen. And as Rex mentioned, you can just see the pattern. If Hilly has playmaking and you have a lot of setup around mid, and the 3v3 actually makes sense compositionally, and they have these team fight compositions that can push forward and pressure forward and just engage, I think this is where Mad Lions do their absolute best.
But we mentioned it already earlier, we see it behind us here as well. Karzi's been doing great on that Jinx, but it's almost lighting up like a fire on those drafts. You know, there are going to be some adaptations I think need to be made when you go into best of fives, and more gets banned out as you go further.
I think especially against G2, it will be unlikely that he gets Jinx, because I don't think they are a team that wants to play Jinx themselves. So I feel like it's just an easy ban in this series for G2. Then is the question, can Karzi pull something else out that fills a similar role? I think he did sort of a good job on the Seri, so that could be happening today. But for me, it's more about actually how top lane plays out today, because I feel like Chasey is, as you said, like this one gear player. Even when he plays Cassante, which I think is his most played, he just plays it as a carry. Yeah. So how much of that can they use today? Can they use Chasey as a carry today, and can they empower him with Elioya's pathing, or is it just gonna be about the bot lane? And then for me, Hans and Mickey are just a step above.
Yeah, probably the best way to go for Mad Lions is looking at that top lane. Jinx for Carzzy perhaps, and G2 on the other side, they also found a pick that works for them. In fact, Bel'Veth. So Goldberg, run us through, no pun intended, how they're utilizing her.
And I will. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Well, not run it on a literal treadmill. I think we're done with that for now. Yeah, I want to take a look at the Yike on the Bel'Veth as well, because G2, as a whole 5-man unit, are actually really good at setting him up. In the beginning, you're going to see that. You haven't seen it yet, but they're going to drop defensive wards to make sure that there's no invade when Yike is actually going for the Raptors instead. Crucially as well, Yike is getting a leash from his mid laner and from his top laner as well at the same time. So we can see it now. There's so many resources from the solo laners to set him up successfully. Even then, they're also dropping the wards. They know they can do this because there's not the highest chance that Malrang will actually path topside. And even if he do, he will be spotted on these Raptor wards. You can see now the wards we mentioned earlier came through. And now going up towards the top side. Bot lane's completely even. There's nothing to worry about. So by this point in the game, it's just a free cam clear into topside. So Genda being a bit too far forward does not matter. They go for it. Now with the teleport coming in, Yike again still around. At first, it's fine for Sugenda. You're like, okay, I died. At least I can pick up the wave. That right there was the big one. And that's already 2 kills this early into the game. Now let's have a look at what actually happened on the other side of the map when that teleport came in. Because of the early information they got with the raw wards, the rest of G2 was actually able to come around and stop that play. So while they went aggressive on one side of the map, the bot side actually invested so much to make sure that he was not losing camps on the bottom side of the map. Now that red buff is still alive, so Yike comes back after his clear. He can clear that up, can move into the Rift Herald as well at the same time, or the Raptors rather at the same time. And then from the mid lane, because Larsen is stepping up like he is, they now have 3 units around Yike once again on the Bel'Veth. And once again, it's every single member that he's already surrounded by, albeit by the Mickey on the Nautilus, Caps on the Sejuani. You can even see it here. This is the second Raptor that he's going to steal away from them. Once again, ward dropped down. Now he's in a position where he's finally cleared the red side again. He's cleared his own blue buff. Because of the level advantage that BB got on the top side, they're now able to again go for another play on the top of the map. Beautiful dive. They juggle the aggro. Marang on the position where he's not really getting out. They even get some plating on the road there. And look at how far he is right now. 3-1-2 on the Bel'Veth. 2 level up, or actually 1 level up will be 2 level up on Malrang as well. And that goes down to the entire efforts on G2, how they play around him. They were talking about how Jinx probably won't get through. Well, I'm curious to see will Yike actually get his Bel'Veth again, but back to you, Shucks.
Thank you so much. That is the $1 million question. And it's so interesting when you look at G2 and the way they're just playing around their jungler so much. The big question is also, they are starting in the lower bracket. Martin, do you think that they can replicate what they did in spring last year when they made that run to MSI, 12-0?
Definitely. I personally really like coming from more games. If I look back at some Worlds experiences when I played play-ins, for example, 2017, I think that gave us a lot of power when we had that momentum, had those games under our belts. So something similar probably happened for them last year when they figured out the whole Jarvan Ahri thing way before everyone else. And now they have the opportunity again with potentially 3 best-of-5s back-to-back where they could really get to know themselves.
No, for sure. I'm in agreement. I've done those lower bracket runs, and I feel like your foundation really gets tested in a way that is different, and you are allowed to make mistakes that maybe you can't make in the finals, and you kind of explore yourself and find yourself at the highest form for the most important matches.
G2 has shown that they have a proficiency to peak at the right time and take the information gathering to a new level. What Caps is going to show up? Usually he is the big game player, he is the playoffs player. Are you expecting more from him now that he is in this finals weekend?
I think that's the only expectation to set on Caps. He's always showing up for the big games, and even though he's underperformed, I think that he has, built enough of a credit here in the LEC to know that when it comes to the BO5s, he's going to be able to, pop off and find himself again. I think the biggest thing is just the champion pool, because the mid lane meta has been very strange. We don't like Ahri so much here in Europe, and we will see what Caps kind of finds in his pocket.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest worry isn't necessarily how many times he's killing people or dying, how much damage he's dealing, because I think his role in that team is not necessarily to be a carry anyway. It's much more to facilitate the team. The one worry I would have is that his kill participation is quite low. So for me today and moving forward in this weekend, I would like to see him more a part of the fights, more setting up the team, because I think when he has Yike there playing carry jungles, when he has Hansama there playing hyper carries on AD, he doesn't necessarily need to be the one dealing the damage or killing people. He just needs to set up the fight.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's of course a big departure from his usual role, especially when he's really stepping up in those playoffs, really facilitating 100% for your teammates. So we'll see what happens. Mad Lions up versus G2. G2 looking if they can make that lower bracket run once again, or if Mad Lions can shut up the haters. Do or die in the lower bracket for G2 versus Mad Lions for a chance to face Vitality tomorrow. The LEC Spring Finals weekend starts right now.
Reckless starts to open up. It's a Quadra. LEC trying to get away, but Humanoid will not let him.
We were very disjointed. We didn't play the same game. Everyone was doing their own thing. Team fighting was not even our strength anymore. You have good players, but they're just a bad team.
Humanoid trying to survive. Oscar trying to do what he can as well. Fnatic have been in this spot before. But Mad Lions slam the door in their face.
Being on the same page was something that we really worked on hard. I think we're showing it off.
Astralis had hope, but it's immediately quashed by the Mad Lions as they make their way to the playoffs.
We have a pretty good read on them. We kind of know what to expect from them. And we also have 3 best-of-5s back-to-back to go. So I think we're going to come in full force.
G2 looks pretty strong. It's very important to keep the momentum going. And I feel like I'm just kind of checking them like one by one. We have players with experience. I don't think it's going to be a big issue for us.
They have to engage on the 4-man core of G2, but Caps with a clean ultimate onto Vicky. Maybe it's enough to start the fight off in favor of G2. X-Kick on the backside cannot get it done. G2 take the Baron. They take the fight. They're looking to end the game.
They did win 2 series to get here, right? So they obviously deserve to be here. Are they the best team in this tournament? I don't think so. They're probably the worst, I'm not gonna lie.
If we beat G2, I think it's probably one of the highest chances of winning a split that I would have in the LEC.
It was supposed to be Vitality, but in the finals, waiting for an opponent is BDS. 1 win away from being your champions.
In this series, we kind of forgot how to play. I don't think we were the same team that we are usually. BDS, they 3-0'd us. I think that's unexpected for everyone, but they're a good team, and we just have to get back stronger, and I think we can do that.
2K getting lower. Perks, can he take this one away? No. BDS get the Baron. Massive shockwave from Nuke. Kaiser going to block the follow-up damage. The only thing keeping Vitality standing in this fight, but it's not enough because here comes Crowny.
To be honest, it would be crazy, surreal to win the entire thing and to play at MSI, to represent our region with insanely good teams. It would be completely crazy.
With the Magnus Storm, the Slug Smasher coming up with the explosive cast, it's anti-synergy, and Kazi has a lot more health. A triple for Kazi.
If we are about to win, it will feel very relieving just because we have improved so much.
Now flashing in, there's the ulti. Q goes a little bit wide, Knockum now going in, and 1 kill, he dashes through. Oh, he can't be killed.
I'm definitely aiming for first, and that's what I'm always aiming for. And winning means everything to me.